Hey Grace Kids, welcome back to Grace Kids TV. My name is Miss Amanda and I serve as the Early Childhood Director here at Grace Church. It's so great to be joining you today. Today is one of my favorite Bible stories. We will learn about how Esther saved her people. God is always in control. Even when it looks like evil might win, we can trust that God will always win. Today's Bible story will help us learn about a time when God's people were in danger. But God showed that His plans will always succeed. But before we get to today's story, let's head over to Grace Kids Trivia to see what you remember from last week's story about how God can always be trusted. Good luck!
Question 1. True or false? Jeremiah was a king in Babylon. And the answer is false. This was not true. Jeremiah was not a king in Babylon. Instead, he was a prophet to the people of Judah. He told them messages from God, even when they were prisoners in Babylon. Jeremiah warned the people that God was going to punish their sin. Sadly, the people still disobeyed God. And that leads us to our next question of the day. Question 2. True or false? Even though the people disobeyed God, He did not stop loving them, and He had a good plan for His people. And the answer is true. This was definitely true. God had a good plan, and He spoke through Jeremiah. He said, "One day I will bring my people back to their land. I will be the God of all the families of Israel. They will be my people." God's people had been separated, and God was going to bring them back together. Question 3. True or false? God said that He would watch over His people like a shepherd guards his flock of sheep. And the answer is true again. God said that He would turn His people's sadness into happiness. He said, "I will comfort them. My people will have everything they need because I am good." God said, "There is a hope for your future." Question 4. True or false? In the Old Covenant, or promise, the people had God's commands in writing. They made sacrifices for their sin. God would make a new covenant, or a new promise, that would be much better. And the answer is true. This one is definitely true. This new covenant would change people's hearts. It would provide a way for people to be saved from their sins. In this new covenant, God would give His people the power to obey His commands. God said, "I will forgive their wrongdoing and never again remember their sin." And our final question of the day, question 5, true or false? God's words are always true, so we can always trust God. And the answer is true again. This one is absolutely true. Jeremiah's message was a good one. He told about a day when God would forgive sin and change people's hearts. Jesus made these words come true. God forgives our sin through His Son, Jesus.
Friends, I'm Megan, and my name is Jessie. Hey, Megan, I really like your crown, but why are you wearing it?
I am wearing a crown today because today's Bible story is one of my favorites. It's about a brave queen named Esther.
Wait, there are kings and queens in the Bible?
Yes, Jessie, kings and queens.
That's amazing. I bet Queen Esther's crown made her so brave, and she was never scared of anything.
Well, it wasn't a crown that made Queen Esther brave, Jessie. God heard Queen Esther's prayers for God's people, and he made her brave.
But why was she scared in the first place? If she's the queen, she should be able to do whatever she wants.
Well, there was a man who worked for the king, and he wanted to hurt God's people. Queen Esther had the chance to help rescue God's people, but the only way she could go talk to the king was if she was invited. Let's listen to our Bible story to see what happened. Some of God's people were in a land called Persia. Persia was ruled by King Ahasuerus. The king chose Esther to be his queen. Esther was one of God's people who were called Jews. Esther did not tell the king that she was a Jew. One day, Esther's cousin Mordecai heard some bad news. Haman, one of the king's helpers, had a very evil plan to destroy the Jews. Esther wanted to help her people, but the king had a rule. No one can go to the king unless the king asks that person to come first. If anyone broke the rule, the punishment was death. The only way to not be punished was if the king held out his scepter. That meant you may live. Esther was afraid. Mordecai reminded Esther that she was a Jew. Maybe Esther had become the queen just for this time, so she could save her people. Esther asked all the Jews to not eat or drink for 3 days. Then Esther went to the king. He saw Esther and held out his scepter. That meant she would live. "What can I do for you?" the king asked. "I will give you anything, up to half of the kingdom." Esther asked the king and Haman to come to a feast. When they were done eating, the king said, "What can I do for you? I will give you anything, up to half of the kingdom." Esther said, "Come to my feast tomorrow." The next day, the king and Haman went to Esther's feast. When they were done eating, the king said, "What can I do for you? I will give you anything, up to half of the kingdom." Esther said, "There is a plan to kill me and my people." "Who made that plan?" the king asked. "This evil man, Haman," Esther said. The king was angry. He ordered Haman to be taken away. Then the king made a law to keep the Jews safe from their enemies. God's plan was to send the Messiah into the world through Abraham's family. Haman's evil plan could not stop God. God had a plan for Esther to rescue his people. By saving the Jews, God made the way for his son Jesus to come into the world.
For our craft today, you're going to need the printout that has a picture of the scepter on it, something to cut with, something to color with, and then just a few sticky, shiny gems. And I'm going to show you exactly how to make this craft. Are you ready? First, you're going to color the scepter. Next, you're going to cut it out, and if it's kind of tricky for you to cut out because there's a lot of different cuts, then you can kind of just cut like a circle around it. There you go, it does not have to be perfect. And then the last part, you're going to take just a few gems and put them on the top. And then your craft is done. And why did we make the scepter? You can look on the directions page and it says whenever the king would point his scepter at someone, it was a good thing. Esther needed to ask the king an important question, but his rule was that no one could visit him without permission. Esther was afraid, but her question was too important. She went to the king, and he held out his scepter and listened to her. So it was a good thing that Esther was brave and she was willing to go talk to the king. I'm excited for you to make this craft and for you to remember the story when you look at it of how brave Esther was and how God was with her the entire time. Thanks so much for watching Grace Kids TV. Have a great week.